Hello and welcome to the third part of this tutorial series for PBR texturing using Quixel Mixer. So in the first part I showed how to prepare a mesh for export in Blender and how to bake the maps that are needed in Mixer. In the second part I showed how to create the first material, which is this rubber material for the mesh. And now in this part I will continue and create a material for the metal part and the nuts, and then in the end we will export these maps as textures which then can be used in a renderer like Unreal Engine or in Blender. If you want, you can open the finished projects in Mixer. It should be included in the files that I have provided for download. You need to copy the path of the folder for projects for Mixer, which is this path. So you can open it by going to Edit and Preferences. Just copy this path and then add it in an Explorer. And in this folder, go to Projects and then extract the contents of the file MixerProjects from the downloaded files here. And after this, when you restart Mixer, you will see that the project is available to be opened from the start screen. So let's create a new solid layer. Let's name it Metal Base, and then we can add it to a group. Let's call that group also metal, and then use a color ID for this group, and for this I will use the yellow ID. And then for this metal base, let's quickly crank up the metalness for this one. Okay, and maybe decrease the roughness a bit, maybe a lot. Okay, this looks kind of maybe not too much. Okay, and also the albedo I want to increase a little bit, and I don't want to display the displacement, normal, or occlusions for this layer. So this is our base material for the metal. Now I will age this metal a little bit by using some wear map. So let's add a solid layer and add a mask stack to it, and then use a map mask. So let's use a custom image, and I will use this metal 005 2K displacement texture, which is included in the files that can be downloaded from the download in the description. So let's use it, and this texture can be seen that it can give some nice variation to the surface. And then I will add a curvature mask, and let's change the level a little bit, maybe decrease the and then increase the tightness. And I want to apply it only to the edges. So, and then go back, and kind of looks okay. So I want to turn off the albedo and metalness, and the roughness, let's crank it up. Maybe I can play with the mask a little bit, so maybe increase the levels here so that it doesn't look so weird. I think now it kind of looks okay. So let's go with this one. Time to add some rust to our metal. So this time I want to use a built-in material in Mixer. So click this button to add a surface layer, and then quickly search for rust in surface, and I want to use this rusted metal sheet, and it will load the textures, and this is how it looks. And I can then play around with its settings to make it look more so that it fits more to my mesh. The first thing that I want to do is change the placement from box projection to tiling, and it already is looking a little better. So as you saw that with box projection it was stretching here in the inside edges, but with tiling it's a bit better. Then I want to increase its repetitions. So it looks much better. And now I will use a mask tag on this layer to break it up a little bit so that it looks more natural. So let's add a noise first, and I will use a whirly one noise, and let's just play around with the settings until I see something that looks kind of okay. Maybe use the mask channel, increase the altitude, amplitude, and the frequency, and the octaves. Let's crank up the linearity. Okay, so now add a curvature map, and then maybe adjust the levels a little bit. So now we can limit our rust to the edges of the metal, and then we can multiply it with the noise. Okay, so let's go back to the material. Tell you what, I will invert the curvature so that the rust is more visible on the flat surfaces instead of the edges. And let's see the map now. It looks more realistic. Let's go back and maybe decrease the intensity of the displacement, invert source so that it projects outside or on top of the metal, and then maybe use a really low value here. Okay, this looks much better now. Let's look at the back side, and don't forget to rotate your HDRI to see how lights behave with the material. Okay, it looks good enough. As a final touch to this metal layer, I want to add some grease or grime to the crevices and the corners in this mesh. So let's add a new solid layer, and I will use almost black color for this, and let's disable metalness, and this should be completely rough, so I will crank up the roughness, and let's disable the displacement or normals for this one, and let's add a mask stack to it, add a noise mask, whirly one, and then let's increase the seed, maybe go to the mask view. I will not change the amplitude, maybe a little bit, increase the frequency, octaves, linearity, and persistence. Maybe decrease it. Okay, now let's use curvature once again, and I will use underlying mix, and I will select the cavities for this one. So it looks good enough. Let's adjust it a little bit, just slightly. Looks good. So now let's go back to the material view, and now you can see some grime and dirt in there. Before I finish up with this metal material, I just want to show you one more thing. The painting in Mixer is still in its infancy, so there are not a lot of features that you can expect, but it has the basic features that you can paint with a brush, and you can paint multiple channels with that brush. You can use stamps. So I will use a stamp to emboss a logo here on the metal. So let's use the paint layer. I will add it above this base color layer, and here are the basic settings. So these are the brush alphas that can be used, the size, angle, and all the usual settings, the brush shape, softness, jitter, which will then randomly change the shape of the brush, and which channels do you want to use. And I don't want to use any color channel, metalness or roughness. I just want to displace my mesh a little bit with this. And for the brush shape, I want to load an image, and I will use this snow leopard logo, and this is also included in the files that can be downloaded from the link in the description. For the displacement, I will use the default setting, and then I can change the view to front view so that it's orthographic, and then increase the size of the brush so that it fits this inside circular area, maybe a little bit more. So going back to the perspective view, what's really good is that you can see that because of this displacement, our curvature settings has been changed, and the layers above this paint layer already take that into account. So inside these crevices from this logo, some of our grime and dirt is already collected inside. So this curvature system in Mixer works really well. Coming to the last piece of our mesh, which are these nuts here, I will use a smart material, and these are the built-in materials in Mixer which are really configurable and already have great surface properties configured for them. So let's click this add surface layer button and select smart material and filter it by metal, and let's use this metal machinery yellow material. Okay, let's wait for it to load the textures. So this is how it looks like, and I can then apply the ID for this, which should be the red one, maybe the green. Yes. So as it can be seen, it already looks good enough, and we can go in and change its properties to make it behave like we want to. So in the folder of this material you can see all of the layers that make up this material. So there's the steel layer and then some damage, and you can isolate them and see the effect for each of them. There is not much that I want to change about this. This color I can change, so I will change it to dark grayish tinge in this paint layer, and then maybe this oil smudges I can also I also want to scale down a bit, so let's see if it's this layer. Yes, so maybe scale it down a little bit. Okay, so I think it looks good enough. So this is it. We are now finished with the texturing of this tire, and if you are still with me, then I want to say thanks for sticking around. And now I will export the textures from this project. So let's head over to the export tab, and here we can give a name which will be used as the base name for all the textures, the export location. So let's create a new folder here and call it mixer underscore PBR. Select it, and we can add a subfolder which will be named by the surface name, but I don't want that. Add resolution to file names or open folder after export, so I will not use any of them. Export format, so I will use PNG, and for the export resolution I will use 4K. So here we can specify which maps do we want, and then the individual settings for each maps can also be defined here. So I need the albedo, I don't need diffuse or specular, and the roughness. Then I want the normal, the displacement I will take it, but I will probably not use it in Blender. The metalness is also needed, and then let's go to the settings of each maps. For albedo I want PNG, RGB and 8-bit, so it already looks good. For the roughness I can work with the grayscale, but 16-bit, so it has more information, and linear is fine. For normal RGB, linear but 16-bit, so that it has more information. For displacement, again grayscale and 16-bit. For AO also grayscale and 16-bit, and same for the metalness. So now we are ready to export. Don't forget to save with Ctrl S once before starting the export. And the export is pretty fast in Mixer, so it doesn't take a lot of time. And now we can export them. So the export is complete. Let's have a look. So these are our maps that have been exported now. Okay, and next we can fire up Blender and see how they look in it. So this is our blend file with the low poly and high poly, and let's go to shading. and quickly remove the previous maps, and with the principal BSDF selected, press Ctrl Shift T so that we can quickly select all the maps. So I will select the albedo and the roughness, metalness and normal to quickly set them up with the principal BSDF. And this works with the Ctrl Shift T, and as you can see, it doesn't look half bad. You can probably use the AO map and the displacement to make it look even better, but for this tutorial I won't do that. And with this I would like to say goodbye. I hope it was a good learning experience for you. Like always, if you have any comments or suggestions, please write them in the comment section below. I have included a lot of details and links in the description from where I got the textures and a lot of files to help you follow this tutorial series, and you can download them and play around with them. So in the end, I would like to say that I really like Quixel Mixer. It's a great tool. It's very fast and intuitive, easy to learn. It integrates really well with Blender, and best of all, it's free. And I think with the future updates it will turn out to be a really nice overall texture painting software. So with this I will take my leave now. Until next time, goodbye.